Hello, and welcome to La Mesa, a City of San Antonio series where we discuss timely topics in a roundtable setting. My name is Mark Carmona, and I'm the Chief Housing Officer for the City of San Antonio. I'm excited to come together with a group of panelists today to talk about a critical issue in our community that we're facing around youth homelessness. This month is National Foster Care Awareness Month. And while the month is not dedicated solely to youth housing awareness, it is a critical time to highlight the challenges and supportive services available to youth experiencing housing instability, including those who have lived experience in the foster care system. In San Antonio, nearly 25% of young adults who experienced foster care reported not having a stable place to live upon exiting foster care. While each experience is personal and unique, a strong system of support for youth is critical. As we reflect on the challenges and progress in our city, I want to encourage our listeners and viewers to have an open mind when learning more about what housing and homelessness means to our panelists, and to consider if what you hear today in any way challenges your prior beliefs about what homelessness means. I also hope this podcast episode introduces one or two local organizations supporting young adults. With me is Brittany Palacios, a young adult stability and support program manager with SAM Ministries.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Rahana Worsley, a case management with A Haven for Hope.
Thank you for having me.
Joseph Rios, a co-lead for the Next Level Path Builder Youth Advisory Group.
Thank you for having me.
And Kristen Taylor, a housing coordinator with the Through Project.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here today. It really is an honor to discuss with you housing instability among youth and young adults. Nationally, nearly 3.5 million young people between the ages of 18 to 25 have experienced some form of homelessness, including couch surfing and shelter stays. It's a challenge we're seeing within our own community. And so I want to ask a general question to each of you. What is a misconception about youth and young adults experiencing homelessness? Brittany, can we start with you?
Yeah, I would say one of the misconceptions would be that, our youth are able, they can go get jobs, they can go easily, do all these things, when in reality, they face challenges as far as mental health, substance use. They face challenges of when they exit foster care system, they may not feel very well prepared to live that real life, right? Whether that's knowing how to cook, clean, take care of their selves, honestly. So I think that's a misconception. And then a lot of times too, when they are released from foster care, they may not have an ID, or they may not, or youth in general may not have their documents. Their parents may have it. They may not have a relationship with their family anymore. So I think that misconception of, it's just so easy to go get a job, you're able, all that stuff. They may not have an ID. They may be facing challenges with trauma, mental health, substance use. So it just makes it that much harder for them to get a job without any documentation and all of that stuff.
So they may not be as prepared as people think.
Correct.
Coming out of the foster care system to kind of go back into community.
Yes.
Kristen, what do you think?
I agree with that too. I think the big misconception is that maybe they're choosing this lifestyle, or that they're lazy, or like she said, just go get a job. Another big thing too is people thinking having a job equals not homeless. Whereas I've seen many youth and young adults who do have jobs and they are still homeless because their jobs aren't paying livable wages. Or maybe they're just not able to get into housing due to not having an ID, not having that income verification or rental history or anyone to co-sign for them. But in reality, most of the time they're on survival mode, kind of doing a day-to-day kind of living, and not really just worried about their future or not thinking that far ahead and just thinking more on a day-to-day basis.
I know Next Level, Joseph, works a lot directly with this population. What's some misconceptions that you see in your work?
Well, for mine, I do agree with both y'all because, I've been with Next Level for 3 years already. It's been hard, to actually get a job for me and for me to keep that job. I did have an interview yesterday and it didn't go as I, hoped it would. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people think that, they were lazy, we are on drugs. It is harder to go through homelessness when you don't have a support system behind you to pick you up and lift you up. Because, a lot of people do have a support system, but a lot of people won't be there for you when you're there for them. and have your back when you need them right there and then.
Yeah, I see that. Rahana, what about from your perspective?
The misconceptions are definitely, I agree with everyone here, but definitely the misconceptions are that they are lazy, that they already have it together, but also when they go out for work, they're not prepared. So they're not prepared for how to do an interview, how to dress for an interview, how to, they may not have an ID, they may not have a social security card, and they may not know how to navigate to get those things like a Texas ID or the social security card or their birth certificate. They may not have access to those things.
So let's talk about that. So you're talking about some of the things that they don't have, that's not readily available. How does that translate, not having those things, to housing affordability or housing connection challenges for youth and young adults? So, you're just coming out and you're walking into the situation. You may be looking for housing. So what would you say are some of the housing affordability or housing connection challenges that this population is facing? So Kristen, do you mind starting with you?
Yeah, so I think that the price for living is going way faster than wages are. I believe last time I looked it up, it was about $20 and something an hour to be able to afford to sustain for yourself, and that's just one single household. But when you look at it, when you're applying for jobs and stuff, I know even in my job, helping some of my caseload looking for jobs, most of the time they're offering 10, 11 an hour, 12. The most you'll see most of the time is 13 and 14, especially with these entry-level jobs or someone who's trying to go to school and can only work part-time or doesn't have the experience. And then if they do, somehow have enough to provide for themselves, when you go to apply for apartments or housing, they're asking 2.5 times the rent, 3 times the rent. And most of the time the wages are not adding up with that.
Brittany?
Yeah, I agree. I think too, one of the hard things is that when it comes to affordable housing, I feel like nowadays, like she had mentioned, it's very difficult. Even me myself, I have shared living right now. Even in the position that I am. So it's just think about that for those that are 18, that are starting off, who may not have a high school diploma. So then now getting a job is going to be a lot more difficult, a job that'll then sustain their living. So I think with that too, it's very difficult. That's one of those downsides of it. And also with the connection to housing, I feel like not a lot of youth may even know of what services are even available to them. So that's another thing, is that with us, with the Ask Center, we can get them connected through HomeLink, which is an assessment that we do. But a lot of people who walk through the doors, they don't know that process. They don't know what it takes to get into, whether it's affordable housing or get connected to housing through programs like permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, or transitional housing, anything like that. So I think just the awareness in general when they're coming out of either foster care or if they're just newly homeless at 18 to 24 age, they kind of have to scramble to figure out what resources are available to me and how do I go and find those resources.
So Rohana, I know at Haven for Hope, you have your stay, and then you're trying to connect in community, and housing can be a challenge. So on the connection side for housing, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm really seeing that the young adults, they don't have a livable wage in order to afford a home. Sometimes they do get picked up for rapid rehousing or maybe permanent supportive housing, but that's kind of rare. So they need more accessibility to funding from the state to give them more access to like rapid rehousing or housing. But that's what we're definitely finding here, that it's just no access, it's no funding.
What is rapid rehousing? What's the goal of that?
So rapid rehousing is a program that we have through some partner agencies and also with Haven. They fund for 18 to 24-year-olds for a year. They help them find the apartment. They also give them case management as they move out, to give them support once they do move out. They help them find employment if they're not employed, but they will pay for their apartment for a year.
So Joseph, when you think about housing affordability or connecting people that you're working with, say even to housing, what are some of the challenges you see?
Some housing people, they do require you to have a job before you get housing. It's kind of difficult because, you're trying to juggle two balls at once, trying to keep your job, maintain your job, be able to pay your rent, your light bill, your water bill, and all that. Also hard to, maintain that when you have nobody to support you throughout that time. Having, places like Next Level and then San Ministry and Haven Hope and then through helps that process go a lot smoother because, you have that support behind you and go through that process of, affordable housing and stuff like that.
I think Joseph makes a really important point, and I hope people that are watching or listening today can really focus in on and understand the need for a support system. Mm-hmm. Having a support system that really is there and available for you. Many people may take it for granted, that you've got these people that can help you in any kind of situation, but the support system, that's the second time you kind of brought that up and the importance of it. So thank you all for sharing your insights here. We really appreciate these perspectives. Statistically, LGBTQ plus youth are at 120% greater risk of homelessness, and youth who identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, have an 80% higher chance of entering homelessness than their non-BIPOC peers. Brittany, you work at San Ministries at the Youth Adult Stability and Success Center, which is our local youth drop-in center called the YAS. We all call it YAS. The YAS Center was built in partnership with San Antonio Youth and Corazon Ministries. It's a place where young people can come and access resources that's centralized and with them in mind. So can you share how the Youth Drop-In Center transformed service delivery to this population that's experiencing homelessness?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best things that the YAS Center can provide would be that one-stop shop wraparound services. So when they go there, we can, one, get them connected to housing through that home link that I mentioned earlier. We could also help them with, in our partnership with SA Youth, help them get their high school diploma through SA Youth if they don't already have it. And then after they get their high school diploma, or if they already have a high school diploma, they can work on getting connected if they want to go to college or if they want to join the workforce, trade, anything like that. We have those services there. We also partner with Crosstown Psychiatry. So we have a psychiatrist that's on site every 2 weeks that can do psychiatric evaluations and prescribe medication. All these services are free. So even with the medication that's being prescribed, we pay for that. San Ministries can pay for that. And then on the San Ministry side, we help with that case management piece. So ID recovery, getting them connected to SNAP benefits. So we have an employee from the food bank come once a month to be able to help them with their applications. It's a lot easier that way because we're not really well versed in all the ins and outs of the SNAP benefits. So, and we did before, we would do the applications. It's just a longer process that way. So we just like, oh, let's just have somebody come here and do the application for them who works there. Makes it a lot easier. And then on top of all those services, we have showers, 2 lunches or 2 meals a day, so lunch and dinner. We have 2 snacks. We do laundry there as well. We can provide clothing if they need clothing. We have a lounge area that they can hang out. So there's 2 TVs. They can watch TV. There's 2 computers in there. They can play video games. If they like, there is some quiet pods as well, so they can rest, lay down. They have that area to just get out of the elements and be able to, whether it's cold or hot, and to provide that. And being in one place to do that is a lot easier than saying, oh, we can't help you with, food, so you're gonna have to go to this resource, or we can't help you with your psychiatric care, so you have to go here. When it's all right there, they're more than likely going to take advantage of that when it's there.
And I imagine with hot weather coming, you're gonna get more and more young people that are stopping by that are doing that. So from your perspective, what are some lessons that you've learned that you'd like to share with other providers on best practices to engage this population?
Yeah, so I would say, one, to be trauma-informed is one of the biggest things. To be trauma-informed, and it's very person-centered, so non-judgmental. They walk through those doors, making them feel welcome and safe on site, and being comfortable to be able to express themselves the way that they want to express themselves, and letting them know that it's okay to do that, and we're not here to judge, we're not here to do any of that. So being very person-centered, we're gonna meet you where you're at. When we do the assessment, it's not very like, oh, you have to do this, this, this. It's like very more welcoming in that sense. And then I feel like also a part of the best practices too is I always tell, my case managers that it's important to take care of ourselves. in order to better effectively help our clients. Because if we're not very well taking care of ourselves, then it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to reflect in the work that we do. So self-care is very important too, to be able to provide the work that we do. Because honestly, the clients or the people that we serve, they see it, right? If we're overwhelmed or if we're, in our head, they're going to be like, oh, okay, like, they're going to be the ones that have to give us some therapy. Like, are you okay, Miss Brittany? Like, yeah, I'm fine. But yeah, so that's another thing too, just making sure that we're good. But trauma-informed, person-centered, non-judgmental, and providing a safe space for them.
What does it mean to be trauma-informed?
One, trained, right, to have that training of what is trauma, right? A lot of people don't really understand or even know the definition of what trauma is. And so understanding what trauma is, and then being able to, when a client comes up to you and they express like what they're going through and their traumas, to be able to sit back with that and provide that empathy for them. And of course, like, we may not be able to relate to what they're feeling, or maybe we can, right? But having that empathy to say, hey, like, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. Like, let's work through that. I'm here to help you and support you through that. And I can provide you with all these resources that can help you. And then also on top of that, like, being trauma informed too, is that they're coming out from, we don't know what, right, on the streets. And so when they come into the center, they may have a certain language where they're cussing or they're doing this or doing that. It's still important to help them and guide them to know like what we should and shouldn't do, but also knowing that there's a reason why, they act the way that they may do or behave the way that they do. And it's not just because of who they are. That's not them as a true person. It's all of the things that they've experienced in their life.
So it's being sensitive to a trauma that somebody coming in off the street may have experienced as you're kind of working through some of that. So.
I want to add to that too.
Yeah,
One
please.
thing that I usually say too with being trauma informed is you don't have to know someone's story or their background or really have to know their exact situation to be trauma informed and to, handle their situation and talk to them in a trauma informed way as well. So I know that's kind of a big misconception, like, oh, maybe I need to know everything that they've been through so that I can work accordingly with them. But in reality, you can just treat everyone in a trauma informed way.
And I want to add to that. So Haven for Hope is trauma-informed, trained. However, it's like when you do meet with the client, you just want to let them know that you care. Mm-hmm. That's what they really kind of want. They just want to know that you care. And I think if you treat all of your clients that way, especially in this population, it will resonate and they will move forward and hopefully be successful.
Yeah, it's meeting people where they are.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joseph, you offer a unique perspective as the co-lead for Next Level, Path Builder Youth Advisory Group. The Next Level Youth Opportunity Center is a place where young adults can pursue educational and career goals within a system of support. It's a great model and partnership created with communities and schools and Goodwill, and offers space to people to come in and create community together. So can you tell us more about your connection with Next Level and some common resources you see that are needed locally for our young adults?
Well, I came in to Next Level 3 years ago. I was introduced from an ex-partner I used to talk to. When I first came to Next Level, I didn't really know what it really was or what it would do for me, But then as, I registered with Next Level and I went to my first meetings and stuff like that, and I did what I need to do. I had learned that Next Level helps with therapy for mental health. They help with education and career. They also help with sending resources for you for helping with jobs. I was always told that I would never get my high school diploma, that I would never graduate high school. Well, as of 23, I had gotten my diploma, and I graduated high school with the Learning Academy of San Antonio. Yes. I did them. I had about 6 months to complete the packet, but during that time period when I had gotten the pamphlet and everything, my grandma was in the hospital. She wasn't doing so well. And she had passed away in November of 24. So during, 23 on my bad, sorry. During that time, it was around Christmas time. Yeah. So I made a promise to my grandma to, complete high school and graduate high school before Christmas. It was only a month away. So I had a month to finish the packet. And I didn't do none of the work because, I was always with my grandma at school, at the hospital with her, right? Well, I had a month. So I was like, I pushed myself to the limits. I pushed myself to the max. I finished it within a month. And on Christmas Eve, I had gotten my diploma in the mail. And then I had my graduation last year in July, I think, or June. It was amazing. And then my father, I don't talk to him like him, I don't talk to him, but my dad had taken me to go see my grandma's grave because she was cremated, but I do have her ashes with me as well with me, so I have her a piece of me. During that time period of having my grandma in the hospital, I had my coaches at next level to help me with my mental health because it was a really rough patch. I have that support system behind me to navigate the financial aid process, to navigate the college enrollment process and everything like that. So having that connection with Next Level and also having that connection with Goodwill, because they've been helping me to apply for jobs and stuff like that. Yeah. Having those connections has improved a lot, and at the same time with since I'm a part of our youth advisory board for Path Builders and I'm the co-lead, so having those national connections with everyone around the world, because there's a lot of people from Buffalo, New York, Aspen, Colorado, that wants to take what we're doing at Next Level with our youth advisory board and implant it into their organizations. So having that national and from San Antonio and then the national, from having it nationally, it's amazing because you gain all this people talking about you and saying that they're doing this, they're doing these great things over here. We should bring this over to our organization, and it makes us happy because we're making a difference in different parts of the world.
Well, congratulations on your achievement with your diploma, and I look forward to learning more about it as you go into college. But thank you for what you shared. Is really helpful to help us better understand resources that young adults need in our community. So thank you for that. Kristen, you're now a housing coordinator with Through Project, and you have an extensive connection with the organization. Through Project has a specific mission to empower youth who have lived experience in foster care to become successful and independent. But success is defined differently for each person, which helps the Through Project offer a variety of supportive programming for young adults to build resiliency, including housing connections with rental assistance. So Kristen, how did you get connected with Through Project, and what has been your journey with the organization?
Yeah, so I first learned about Through Project at kind of the beginning of my undergrad, around 2019, I believe. And when I first heard about them, it just sounded like too good to be true. Oh, this organization is paying for your rent. There's no catch to it. I just always thought that there was a catch to it, so I kind of just put it in the back of my mind. But then I did get into a situation around 2021 where I was doing classes online, but I actually had a job and everything in a car, but I was facing homelessness. And it looks differently for most young adults. I wasn't sleeping on the streets. It was more like couch surfing, staying with family, friends, and things like that. But through that, I remembered Through Project, and I reached out to them, and it got connected so fast, and it was a pretty fast turnaround. And before I knew it, they had me in an apartment, and I was matched with an amazing mentor as well to help, because I didn't really have that stable adult in my life that I could go to with questions, emotional support, questions about applications, college, what to expect after graduating. So I did go through the housing program at Through Project and the mentoring program as well. I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology in 2022 from UTSA.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And from there, I worked my way back around to being employed with Through Project. So it's been really amazing to be on both sides of it, going through the program and then now working with the program. And it also helps me to better connect with our future participants and letting them know this is a great organization. Like, we really do care. We meet you where you're at. We're trauma informed. This isn't like you're going into DFPS and talking with caseworkers and things like that. Because I know a lot of times our participants face that have that resistance of going to organizations because they have kind of a wall built between them and authority figures, and they just kind of have that assumption that everyone in any kind of position is going to be like a caseworker, going to tell them what they have to do or what they need to do, rather than giving them the choice. So I think me having experience in the program, I can share with them my experience as well, and really better connect them to the organization.
So based on your experiences, what would you say are some stigmas and barriers that young adults aging out of the foster care system face in our general community?
Yeah, I think a big stigma would be that when they're aging out, maybe that these young adults are troubled or unreliable. And I feel like that kind of leads to discrimination whenever it comes to employment, education, housing. And that and barriers as well. A huge barrier would be the lack of support. You know how Joseph has mentioned, like it takes a village, it takes wraparound services. And if you don't have that in your own family, where do you go to find that? And you know, a lot of them, they might not know where those resources are, and they might not have any guidance, anyone pointing them in that right direction. But just navigating things like job applications, housing applications, like how do I even get into housing? I've talked to some participants, and a lot of them qualify for housing and they don't even know it because no one's told them that they can do it. You know, it's hard to believe in yourself when no one around you is really believing in you and supporting you as well.
Thank you so much. This is really meaningful for bringing the broader community to a common understanding of what this transition looks like for young people coming out of care. So Rahana, you come today as a representative for Haven for Hope. It's the largest emergency shelter here in the city. It's a model that brings together dozens of partner agencies on site to provide one-stop access to wraparound services for individuals and families experiencing homelessness. But recently, Haven for Hope launched a new approach to working with young adults, and we'd love to learn more about that. So how has Haven prioritized services for youth experiencing homelessness, and who are some of the partner agencies on the campus who support you in this effort?
So Haven for Hope has had, they have made, so basically Haven for Hope is a 23-acre campus. We have families, we have men, we have women, but just recently they have made a dedicated space for the young adults from ages 18 to 24 on our North Campus as well as on our South Campus. At first, our program didn't really have a lot of leeway, but as the time has progressed, we're going into our second year for the program. We definitely have been getting more and more 18 to 24-year-olds, and we see that it's more of a need. So we're definitely, I'm thankful for the program. Some of our partners that we work with on campus is community-based counseling. We have that. We have Sigma, which is for their mental health. We also work with the Center for Healthcare Services for therapeutic services right there on campus. We also have we work with, within Haven, we work with income and skills development, where they are matched with a job coach, so they can either get training, go to college, or they can find a job. We also have outside partner agencies where we work with YAS. We have had, so when we first started the program the first year, we had some young adults who didn't graduate high school. They went to YAS, got their high school diploma. So we had about, I think, 10 graduates. So those are some of the partners that we work with. We work with inside and we work with outside agencies just to help. Like, it does take a village. It really takes a village to take care of the 18 to 24-year-olds. And so that's kind of what we've been working on.
So I'm familiar with the Haven campus.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it can be a lot because there's so much service, there's so much support.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about engagement. And so engagement with the young people that you're working with. How would you describe what program engagement looks like from your perspective as you do the work? Because it's a lot of options. It's a lot of things to kind of, we'd like you to do this, we'd like you to do that. How do you start?
So how I start is I usually go to them.
Okay.
I usually go to them. So since it's basically a dorm atmosphere, on North Campus, they basically have their own room. It's 2 to a room. And I usually go to them. And I kind of tell them what services that we offer. We do have some requirements, as far as like some, I ask them to take therapy, because you never know what kind of background that they have. But usually I go to them, I talk to them one-on-one, and I try to meet them where they are. And then try to guide them for our services. And I try not to have them be pressured to go to our services, because there are like outside agencies like the YAS Center that they might prefer to go to. So I basically just kind of meet them where they are, and let them know about the services and try not to pressure them into doing anything that they don't want to do.
So let me just ask this kind of generally. You know, it's a natural instinct, I think, sometimes for people to kind of just say, okay, we have them in a resource now, get a job. And now, but I think there is value in giving somebody time to sleep or to eat, you know, or to, I mean, what's y'all's experience with that in terms of what that might look like and how important it is, and maybe what the expectation that there is in the community is? Well, we have you sheltered now you should just go directly into getting a job. What's y'all's experience with that? I mean, let's keep that going and just see if others have thoughts on that.
So with the young adults because they do have shelter, and we realize that because of their backgrounds, sometimes they do just need to just sleep. They need to they have meals. We have 3 meals a day. I keep snacks in my office, so anytime they just kind of want to have a snack, they can come and get a snack. And it's just like we're trying to have it with no pressure. Yes, you know, we want to try to guide them to get some employment, but we don't pressure them. We don't make them. I've had clients that's been there for a year and a half, and it took some time to get them out, to get their own housing. But we're here to support, and I think that's the main point, is for that support, and so they can feel that support. And let them work through whatever that they need to work through.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if they're coming in with extensive trauma,
Yes.
it doesn't make sense to try to put them in another trauma-filled situation if you haven't worked through the trauma that brought you in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with Rahana. I feel like one thing that we have to remember is that a lot of our participants have been in survival mode for so long that, you know, once they find a space where they feel comfortable and they feel secure, they're not going to want to leave that, right? Haven provides that support. They provide a bed. Center provides all those resources, a place to just hang out really and get rest. And so when they finally feel secure somewhere, then to say like, okay, now you're going to get housing, or now you need to get a job. It's like, no, I feel good. I feel safe. I just want to bask in this for a little while, so that way I can just feel like, I guess, safe, right? Feel good about what's going on. And then it's just like kind of like at their own pace, very self-paced. You know, we get them, the resources are there, they know the resources are there, and we just wait till they take that bait, and then once they're ready, then we work with them.
Yeah, I think that's important, like giving them a chance to grow into stability, and like guiding and supporting them, because I think a lot of programs exist in theory, but they, you know, consist of like long wait list, or maybe some barriers and things like that. And then once these youth and young adults do get into the programs, it's not really, you know, to get them to a place where they have permanent housing and permanent stability, and because they're being pushed to get a job and things like that. So I think that guidance, you know, somebody alongside them, showing them what it looks like to gain stability, what it looks like to apply for jobs, like getting all their documents in line and things like that. And really just building that trust and in a relationship with them, so that they know that you're someone that cares about them, and you're not just someone who's just trying to get a roof over their head temporarily, but really supporting them and encouraging them to one day have that for themselves.
So we're getting near to the end of our conversation, so I'd love to hear some final thoughts on how the community can come together with housing resources to create safe spaces for youth to live and thrive. So, and then maybe some recommendations that you all may have. So let's think about that for a moment. You know, creating safe spaces and places for our youth today. I mean, we have YAS, but I think we could agree that we probably need more. We need more kind of support. So if there's an organization that's out there that's kind of thinking about something like this, what would you recommend in creating a safe space for young people to thrive and to be? Any thoughts on that?
I think just reaching out to the community of who's already providing that service and then what that looks like. And then also getting the voice from the ones that we actually serve. So the ones who have gone through these programs, the participants that go through that, asking them and getting their opinion, because the most important thing is what we think somebody needs may not actually what they need in that moment. And so I think getting that perspective and then going from there and trying to build, you know, whether it's another drop-in center or services for young adults 18 to 24.
Yeah, I think it's important. You know, I keep hearing from you all today, and you keep reminding me of the real value and importance of lived experience, you know, and tapping into lived experience as you try to create more capacity in our community, going to people that are in the situation or just coming out of the situation, whether you be a peer support specialist or whatever the case may be. I think what I'm learning from you all again today is that's vital. If an organization is considering something like that, we saw the podcast and we want to help in this way. Well, here's some recommendations from our panel of experts here today on maybe how to build something like that. So as we think of resources and models to engage, what type of outreach and education would you say, each of you, is most effective for a young adult to say yes to connecting?
Honestly, I think it would be like more like of a community town hall, and have like food. They love food. They love food. They love food.
Yeah.
We have a monthly town hall at for our young adults, and at first they just wouldn't come, and but I brought food. They came. So. So definitely, for the community, definitely that. And then when you bring them in, have them some resources, and then hopefully they'll listen, and then feel supported and feel like there are people out there that care for me and want to help me.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just showing up authentically, letting them know that you care, letting them know that you understand and they're not judged, is a big thing. And, you know, having someone who also shares lived experience coming to you and reaching out about a program and organization, I think that that's very meaningful too. And then when you are talking about a certain organization, whether it be your own or another, just kind of avoiding like the jargon or different terms that might not be clear, you know, explaining it in a simple manner, making sure that they're understanding what you're saying too. I think that really helps to really build a connection and the trust that, okay, this is a well-meaned organization, or these are people that really care. You know, they're authentic, and it's easy to really recognize when someone's not showing up for the right reasons or authentically. And most young adults, or youth and young adults who have experienced trauma, pick up on that very easily because they're very attentive to details, body language. You know, how you said sometimes if you're burnt out, they can read that and they can tell, you know, oh, they're stressed out, they're burnt out. So just really showing up authentically and meaning well with what you're doing and the services that you're providing them.
Joseph, what do you think? In terms of what's the best way to do outreach and education for this population to get them to a point to where they want to say yes to connecting and seeing what this is all about? I mean, I know y'all do a lot of that at Next Level, right?
Yes, well, for some, you know, it's a very good idea to, you know, do the outreaches, but, you know, it is weird for some people, for some youth, to hear it from adults. Youth mostly would like to hear this from people who are going through it, like me, you know, are youth talking to youth. But, you know, when it's coming from the adults, you know, they're not understanding it because the adults are saying it in ways that they understand and know how they would see it and how they, you know, would say it to you know, them. I do agree with all of y'all, but, you know, it's better to hear from someone who's gone through it from your age demographic and everything like that.
Good. Brittany?
I agree with all of it. Honestly, I do. I think too, Joseph said the most important thing is when you have somebody who's gone through the program and has been successful in the program, that offers so much more probably than me telling them like, hey, this is a great program because of this and this and this and this. They're like, what do you know? But if it's another participant that's like, hey, like, for real, like they're telling you the truth. This helped me get housing, and this helped me do this helped me do that, just give it a try. It holds a lot more weight than it would if I were to just say that. But and then I agree with everybody else too, and what they said as far as I guess too, one thing we could add to that is when we are trying to do engagement with the youth, incentives like food, or doing little raffles or gift cards or things like that, to like, hey, come, we're gonna do a presentation on learning more about this program, or learning a life skills or a cooking class, and then having those incentives too helps.
So food and people with lived experience. All right, all right. Well, once again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for agreeing to come together today in this really important conversation. But the discussion doesn't end with this podcast episode. We encourage our listeners and viewers to learn more about the resources we shared today by visiting sacred.org. That's sacrd.org. Please like and share our podcast episode to further the dialogue we started today on how we can work together to support young adults in our communities. It really takes involvement and understanding from everyone. I always say this, we need everyone to innovate and create solutions, especially the authentic collaboration with young adults. Thank you, everybody.